So welcome to the Rise of the Super Being podcast. I'm your host, Vanderson Pires, our producers, Callan Walker, and today my guest, my good friend, Morgan Emery. How are you, Morgan?
Yeah, tēnā koe Vanderson, ko tānui toku waka, ko rua pihu me pika pika oku maunga, ko rangatiki me te wai tuna oku awa, ko Ngāti Raukawa toku iwi, ko Ngāti Mano Mano toku hapu, ko Taumato Tara toku marae, ko Mano Mano toku whare tupuna, ko Mākuini Kiriama, rawa ko whare pereki tāne oku kaumātua, ko Pariwahawaha tāne, rawa ko Rawiri Emery oku mātua, ko Karen Deans, toku hoa rangatira, ko Zinzan Deans Emery, rawa ko Guy Deans Emery, aka Bubbles, Tamaiti, ko Morgan Emery, ahau, tēnā koe.
Awesome, my friend. Can you translate for us, please?
Yeah. So, more than translate, I'll just explain why we do that. So,
Yes, awesome.
So, that's actually the first time in a long time that I've done my pipiha in Māori in a public space. It's a bit of a journey I'm back on at the moment. So, yeah, and it's been initiated at my job. So, just this week we had a professional development on Monday, and what was supposed to happen is we were supposed to learn a mihi to learn how to introduce people into our space of youth work and community work. But the first challenge, which was actually put to us men in the job, was to learn about ourselves first. When we know ourselves, then we know where we can stand in the world, and you can't kind of be challenged on that. Okay, so Tainu Te Waka is our canoe that we come to New Zealand on, my people. And the next part was a bit of an interesting one for me because Rua Pihi Te Maunga is not often associated with Tainu Te Waka, so I had to do a little bit of talking to people as, why am I saying this? This is a discussion that I had with my sister, who's done real well at researching our family's whakapapa and where we come from. So Ruapihu me Pika Pika Te Maunga is the two maunga that we associate ourselves with. We can see it from the valley where we're from. Rangatiki and Te Waituna are the two rivers that flow from those mountains. What was the next one? Ngāti Raukawa, Te Iwi. So Raukawa, Ngāti Raukawa is our tribe. Ngāti Mano Mano is our hapu, our sub-tribe from that area. Taumato Tara is the name of our marae, which is based in Halcombe. And Mano Mano was the name of the whare tupuna, which is based there at Taumata. Next part is my genealogy and parts that I feel special being able to mention their names again, which is Mākuini Kiriama, which was my nan, and Whare Pereki Tāne, who was my koro, so on my mum's side. I didn't mention my dad's side in this pipiha. The next one is my mum, Pariwahawaha Tāne, and my dad, Rawiri Emery. And then it's cool, this next part's cool because it kind of just gives an indication of where we're at now, where I'm at, and my wife's name, Karen Deans, my son's name, which is hyphenated with Zinzan Deans Emery, Guy Deans Emery, but better known as Bubbles. Yeah. And then my name. And so I get to say all that proudly before announcing who I am. So, yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. So, of course, normally I say, oh, this episode is sponsored by Combat Room, but yeah, we are we are Combat Room here.
Combat Room.
Yeah, so Morgan's a youth worker and it's a black belt. And so I think today I was trying to think to count. I think you're my black belt number 6.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, number 6. So you're the head coach of Combat Room Palmerston North. So Morgan, let's talk a little bit about your journey in jiu-jitsu, and at the same time talk a little bit about your work as well. So what do you do in Palmerston North as a youth worker?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's an interesting one because both of those journeys kind of ride alongside each other. So I started working at the Highbury Whānau Centre as a youth worker in the classroom for the alternative education part of the program, employed in January 2009. And then alongside that, around about, I think it was November of 2009, I was introduced to jiu-jitsu maybe a little bit earlier in the year. get back to that later. But like I said, prior to us starting this was, at the time I had to choose between two things. I just started a social work paper, and I just started jiu-jitsu, and then it was I had to choose between studying and committing some time to going through my social work degree, or carry on with this obsession that had just come up now. So
you studied this powerful martial art. Right?
So I chose to focus all my energy on jiu-jitsu, obviously. And but I still remain a youth worker at the Highbury Whānau Centre. 12 years. Yeah, this is my 12th year working there, and this is in my 11th year of jiu-jitsu. So
that's pretty cool. So Mark, can you talk a little bit about your work? So how's that works?
It's quite a funny thing, because so my job was to go there and help young people who have been marginalised and removed from mainstream schools. And some of the stories are very out there. Some of them are very minor, but we end up with kids aged between, the youngest we've had is 12, going on 13, up to 16-year-olds can enroll in our alternative education program. But take it into account, I'm 37 now, and this is my 12th year. So I started there as a young person, really, as a 25-year-old.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of growing, as much as I've helped others move on in their life and whatnot. That place has definitely helped me grow as well as a person. So, yeah. But the job itself, what do? We take kids out. For me, I like to say that we work on their behavioural issues. And what we're trying to do is pretty much what I just finished doing before. We're trying to find out who they are, where they belong in the world first. We do run maths and English educational programs, as well as we find some providers to extend science and stuff like that programs to them as well. We get outside providers that will, like, we might go visit Marae and stuff like this. But this is my personal point of view, and everyone at my job knows this, is that I'm not a big fan of the education system. I don't think it's going to make or break somebody in this world. I personally didn't make it through school, if you want to put it like that. I got kicked out of school in year 9, which is 13 years old. Then I went back to school and did half a year in year 10, and then I'm not even sure I did even half a year in year 11. So I kind of did, 18 months worth of secondary school altogether over 3 years. And I wouldn't think that it had a huge impact on me as a person. So that's my standing there, where we have got some very skilled teachers employed to drive that part of the program for our young people. But my biggest thing is to help these young people find a place in the world where they feel safe, where they can come on a day-to-day basis and be themselves, be a 13-year-old, be a 14-year-old or 15-year-old, because sometimes they just have to grow up far too fast. So just slow down, be a kid for a wee while, enjoy the good things in life. My boy is now 14 years old, just turned 14 last week or the week before, and the stuff he's doing, man, I'm not too sure how long it's been since these young fellas have just enjoyed doing what he's doing. Just being a kid. They've all too often been forced to be adults at a very young age.
What's that? Can you give an example?
Yeah, I mean, there's all... I don't want to go too far into putting more stigma onto our young people, but I mean, these kids, they come from hard homes, some of them, gang member homes and stuff like that. Sometimes they don't have a parent. Some of the sad cases is they've lost both parents in a matter of the last few years. Obviously younger trauma, stuff that's happened to them throughout the younger years and stuff like that. So they've been forced to grow up quickly, and it's it's a shame. And it's not the ideal life for some of them.
So Morgan, why did you struggle with the school?
Why did I?
Yeah.
See, because I had my little thing in my whānau, we as a 13-year-old. I grew up in a pretty Yeah, and not I didn't realize this until I was an adult that I grew up in a rough home.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, and it was actually when I went to go apply for the job, and my wife put in the personal statement, because my wife writes my CVs for me.
Uh-huh.
I've got to read them later and see what they say. And yeah, and I read it, and it had I myself as at youth risk, and I said to her,
Oh, really?
"What did you put that in there for?"
Uh,
And she goes, "You were at risk, weren't you?" I went, "Of what?" And she goes, "Going to jail, dying." And I was like, "When?" Oh, is that what all that stuff that I was getting up to could have led to? And yeah, so yeah, it was a hard case. I didn't realise the danger. Like, oh look, I'll give some of mine. I won't say where I got the habits from, but my first time I got drunk, I think I was 11 or 12.
wow.
I was addicted to alcohol by 13. You know, I stopped drinking alcohol. So, but most people say I stopped drinking alcohol as an adult. I'll recorrect it. I have had to re-stop again later on in life as an adult. But I stopped drinking alcohol as a 16-year-old for a good 10 years, kind of thing, plus.
What led you to have this
Yeah, environment. So
environment?
yeah, it was a culture thing that you just don't know it even exists when you're always in it. You just think that is the normal. And again, this is what some of our young people deal with, is that's their normal. So
How did you create this awareness to be able to stop? What harm was create on yourself and in other people as well?
why did I stop at 16?
Yes.
Oh,
And how did you
look, it was
develop
one
this
night.
awareness?
It was one night I got really drunk, and I flipped out at my best mate. And and it was the next day I woke up, and my best mate, didn't even bring it up. He was more gutted that he got asked for ID to get into the club, and I didn't, and I was only 16, you know. And I thought, man, I'm never going to treat my friend like that again. So yeah, so I just did a small shift, and this is the thing I've noticed the most for our young people. They just need to make a small location shift is normally the thing. So I moved from Fielding to Palmerston North as a 16-year-old, and that's been me for the last 22 years. Moved out of my hometown, where my normal circle of friends were easily accessible to get up to no good and, you know, do all that stuff. And at the time, I was lucky. My sister lived in Palmerston North, and she was going through changes for her own life. And yeah, they were positive changes. So I got to be around her, and I was already looking for a place to hide out, so I didn't have to see my mates and drink and stuff. And yeah, yeah, the time between drinks got longer and longer, and before you knew it, it had been years before I had one, and yeah, it kind of just become a habit not to. So.
That's awesome, Morgan. So, Morgan, so what's the first step when this a young person coming to see you guys? So, what's the first approach?
Yeah, it's like anything. When you first meet someone, the first thing we have to do is build rapport. You know, find common ground, and so that's why the pepeha for Māori is so powerful, because I can guarantee there's going to be one is going to be my whānau who watch this, and they're going to either say too much for saying our pepeha, or that's not even it. But who knows? But well, maybe they give me more information, and if that's so, then I'll be appreciative of that as well.
Yeah.
But when we sit there and we say our pepeha, people can go, oh man, I'm from that place too. That's my waka as well. That's my maunga. Or that's my marae. I do in the names of my nan, my koro, my mum and my dad. People will go, man, I know those names. We're whānau, so that we can connect. So that's, you know, that's part of that process, and that's used when you go on to marae and stuff like this, as we say where we're from and why we're standing here. And so we connect. And so for our young people, and it's quite often our Māori Polynesian students that get a bit isolated out there, because they're used to this way. Well, I'm not too sure about now how common it is for them to experience this, but yeah, they're used to being able to build rapport, and then especially when you go from, this is the thing I've found, especially when you go from intermediate to high school, there's lack of relationship building. You know, primary school, intermediate, you have the same teacher all day. High school, all of a sudden you've got 5 different teachers for 5 different subjects, and none of them want to really get to know you because I've got an hour to teach a class of 30 to get the lesson and the message across. So they're just in there to bang out their lesson and then move on to the next group because they're going to come in. Very hard to build a relationship in an hour when all you're trying to do is teach a lesson. So so our first job, we don't push. I don't, and I know my colleagues in the classroom don't push the education is the most important thing. For the first week or so, the kid pretty much gets a free ride. They come in and we just want to know, so where are you from? And blah, blah, what's your last name? Oh, yeah. And because especially my colleague, he's really good at connecting with kids and talking and getting their names and their stories and where you're from. And so we'll sit there and build a relationship, and it's quite cool. I'm quite blessed to be able to work in a place where we're able to be ourselves. Okay, I always say that my work environment's Māori, but it's not really. Like my boss, she's fluent in speaking Māori. She's got a son who grew up in a Māori speaking school, and he can speak fluent Te Reo Māori, but she's actually Indian European. And that's a beautiful thing. And then
Interesting.
And so that's my boss. And then we've got my work colleague in the classroom. She's American. She's married to Cook Island Māori, or Cook Island, and she's got a beautiful heart, and a very compassionate heart. And then my other work colleague in the classroom, he Māori. I know he's definitely Māori. I'm not too sure if he's got other Pacific Island blood in him, but he knows himself very well. And he's got a very good listening ear. He's calm. He's slow to talk. He thinks and he reflects with the kids, and he's a calm person for them to be around. Myself, I asked my kids this morning before I left home. I said, if you were to sum me up, what would you say? And they were like, not too. You can say the truth. They were like, is this a trap? But my big boy, he stepped up and he goes, you're firm but fair, and you're bold. If something needs to be said, you'll say it. And then I was like, yeah, cool. And he also said, 75% of the time you react the correct way, some 25% of the time you overreact. And I said, yeah, I agree with that to a certain extent. I said, the other 25% though, I'm going for impact. I said, if I can't get the message across doing the calm approach, then I'll go, boom. I'll light it up and then we'll see if you get the message then. First thing we do with a young person that comes into our environment, build a relationship, make them feel comfortable, make them feel safe, let them know that this is a consistent environment. We're not going to change on you. That's what I think I bring to the workplace, is consistency, both with the rules and with my temperament. They know that I'm going to tell them, take your hat off. When I come into the building and I see them with their hat on, take your hat off. They know that when they see me before 12 o'clock, no fizzy drinks. They know that if I see them with their butt on the table, they're going to get told off. They know that I'm going to uphold tikanga and rules around the environment 100%. It's just they need that consistency. See, and that's probably something that goes slipping for them, is that rules go like this. And so they don't know where the line is. They know when they step into our environment that it's always going to be the same. There's no flip-flopping from, day to day. But they also, the other thing we give them every single day is a clean slate, 100%. You did something silly last week. Yesterday. Man, I am a clean slate because I also forget. So when they walk in, that's right, you did something out of it yesterday. So but that's definitely our approach. Then we're lucky. I didn't mention all my co-workers. We've got another section in the room right next door to us, underneath the same roof. We've got a social service room, and they specialise in working with our young people, and they often work with kids who are needing help to either transition back out of being locked up, or they're heading towards that position, or anything they've got to do with court. And again, we're lucky to have a doctor in psychology in that room, and so she can, when there's really deep stuff, because I'm not the person to talk emotions and stuff.
Why is that?
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't role model too well to me. I wasn't. I'm pretty slow on empathy. I'm not going to try and pretend I'm not, because
Yeah,
it's
I
very
appreciate your honesty. Yeah,
I'm very slow to understand what other people have gone through until I go through it, and until I get the full picture, I'm not the best at that stuff. So, So when the story starts getting a bit deep with the young people, I can always go, hey, look, man, go and see my work colleague, and she's all over it. And as well as all of our female at our workplace are amazing. So I'll name them just quickly. So we've got Fire Ange, who's the boss.
Yeah.
We've got Sandra, who's the hub of the, what do they call it? The hub of the stub.
Yeah.
So she's you remember Sandra?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yep. So she's heart. She's she's all heart. She's literally got kids that we work with.
I'm glad you mentioned her. Yeah, let's send her love too. Yeah.
We worked with over 10 years ago. Literally living with her. She's amazing. Then we got Alicia, who's our doctor in psychology.
Yeah.
And she's amazing for our young people that really need that help at the absolute bottom of the cliff, as well as when they're on their way back up. And then we got Fire Julene, she's heart, man. She's amazing. So she's quite a unique one. That one, she loves hugs. So when our young people are feeling a bit, you go over to.
So she's from my team, then. Yeah, she's from my team, then. I like. I'm the hug person too.
Oh man, we're like, go and see Auntie Juju. She will give you a hug. She's awesome. And then we've got our. This is just in the Whānau Centre, just at this building, because we're actually a collective of other organisations as well. Then we've got Parteza, and he does the work in the social service room as well, and he helps our kids go through supported bail stuff, and he helps them go to court and get them out, and tireless work. Those boys, him and Kiria, they tireless work of our kids that still not quite getting the message loud and clear. Keep making a little bit of the same mistake, and yet they just keep getting back in there with them, and they can only just keep
what a
supporting.
team, man. That's awesome.
Yep. And then I've got Corey in the classroom with me. He's the one that can sit there and listen to the young people. He's awesome.
That's awesome. So Morgan, do you remember a successful story
for young people?
Yes.
Yeah. Man. So my most, I've got a few.
Please share.
This was one of the first one. This was the first one. This was a young man who he was in a real bad way, and he came to us. This is a bit hard to say without saying his last name, but I'll change it up. Let's just say his last name is Smith. And he come from a family which was gang orientated and crime orientated, and it was just one conversation that stuck out. I'm not too sure if it was during the time he was with us or prior to coming to us. He actually he hit someone in the head with a hammer uptown and split their head open. And he was
how old?
He at the time might have been 14.
14.
Yeah. He took the hammer uptown intentionally to hurt somebody. He wasn't in a best frame of mind. Anyway, we were sitting around the table one day, and he goes, someone asked him, are you going to go back to school? He goes, no, I'm not going to go back to school. I'll get into a fight. And I stopped and I said, why is that? Why would you get in a fight for? He goes, because my last name. As soon as they find out that my name's Smith, they're going to want to fight me. And I was like, man, I hate that.
So why is that?
Yeah, so as I was saying, I got straight away, it grinded my gears, because growing up, that was what I went through. And people go, that's an Emery thing. And I was like, man, I got to an age, I was like, it's not an Emery thing, it's a me thing. It's on me. And I wanted to change that story, and I hated people associating my last name with bad stuff. And I was like, I'm going to change that. And I said this to him, I said, it's on you, man. Stop blaming your last name on your future mistakes. And and he goes, my family's criminals and I'm going to be a criminal. I says, this is rubbish. Anyway, I didn't realise that I was even having an impact on him in this conversation. I thought I was just arguing with him. He, after going to court and whatnot, for hitting the guy in the head with a hammer, he said, you're going to go away to this program up in Whakatane. I think it was one of the very last times it was ever run. It was a boot camp in the bush. And it got shut down. This program got shut down because it was, anyway. But later on. But we did a purupuruake for him, a farewell for him. And in that farewell, he stood up and he looked me dead in the eye and he goes, my name is so-and-so Smith. I'm not going to be like the rest of the Smiths. I'm gonna be better. And I was like, whoa. And I keep looking at this kid. It was hard. I felt like crying in the moment. You know, I was like, man, he means it. He's looking me dead in the eye and he means it. And anyway, he went through it. But then he followed it up with, he did his program up there. They did the rehabilitation. Then they did the graduation day. And he went and followed it up with his parents going up there. They thought they were going up there to celebrate. It was a type of celebration. But he blimmin' stood up again and he told them to their face, you showed me the wrong way.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not going to be like the rest of the Smiths. I'm going to do better. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, whoa. Okay. Well done. Come back to town.
How they reacted to that?
Yeah, they were a little bit thrown under the bus. But yeah, and so he come back to Palmerston and put his head down and his butt up, and he had a straightforward plan. I'm going to do part-time work. I'm going to save money for enough to get a ticket out of here. I'm going to buy me a ticket. I'm going to get my NCA levels at school. I'm going to do all this, and I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to Australia. I'm never coming back, and he hasn't.
Wow, man, that's awesome.
And so he achieved everything he set out to. Moved to Australia, and
wow, man, not a cool story.
yeah, and so that was probably one of my most powerful since. You know, I've had. Actually, here's another one for you.
So please, we stop on the. You're, talking about your beautiful haircut. You look really handsome, by the way.
I don't want to say it, but I think he might have got me with the razor. But anyway, this boy was a little bit cocky, but I loved it. So Jacob was with us, so probably maybe.
What's his name? You just said
Jacob Utubira. Yeah. He came to us, and he was always a cheeky fella, but he knew himself really well. And he goes to me, he played rugby league for a team, and I don't know, for whatever reason they didn't play him. They didn't put him on the field, and he goes, stuff is, I'm going to go to another team. So he threw his toys and he went to this other team, and he played blimmin' well. And I think he might have played against his team that didn't play him, so he played well. And then he goes to me, because this is in an environment where our kids, they say stuff, and you're like, no, you can't do that. Like, that's not how the system works. But he goes to me, Pa, I've played well on the weekend. I'm gonna go to Tutor. I'm gonna play for Tutor rugby. I'm like, you can't play for them. They're a school. You have to be at the school to do that. Anyway, sure enough, the following weekend he plays for Tutor. I'm like, no way. How the heck did you do that? And then he goes, I'm gonna go to Tutor school. I said, you can't just go to Tutor. Like Tutors at the time was had an elite sports program, and this young man, he reckons he's going to go to Tutor, and oh man, you got to get up at 6:30, 7 o'clock, go train. Yeah, I'm going to go do this. No, you can't. You haven't got the uniform or nothing. Sure enough, the following week he goes to blimmin' Tutor school. I was like, you're kidding me? And then I don't know, whatever weeks, I can't remember the time frame, but he comes back and he goes, I'm going to Australia next week. I went, no way. He goes, yeah, I got a scholarship. I'm going to Kiba College for league. I went, you're all lies, boy. and then he come back in the day and he goes, I'm going to Australia tomorrow. I was like, you're not going. And then he goes to Australia. I was like, what the hell? He actually did it.
Wow, amazing.
And then it was only just after lockdown. Just after lockdown happened, I got told from one of my workmates, a young man come to visit you. I said, who's this? And he a bit of a stocky guy. He come back in and he said that he used to come here, Jacob Utubira. I was like, are you kidding me? And he goes, yeah, he's got his barbershop. We got a barbershop. I was like, and by this time, mate, stopped doubting the kid. Okay, he probably owns the shop. So yeah, then I bumped into him and yeah, he told me, he goes, I remember doing all that. He goes, I just wanted to prove you wrong, and I just wanted to prove you wrong. And then he goes, but so he told me that he ended up making the Titans development squad, and yeah. So he's a good little success story, but he was always choice. He was always going to be all right because he had that confidence. So,
do you have I know it must be a hard question, but a percentage of the cases of being successful and the case not that great?
There is a pie chart somewhere that shows all those percentages. I'm not a big fan of them. But yeah, they do exist.
Why is that, Morgan?
Because I weigh up success in a different way.
Right.
For me, are they alive? Are they out of jail? Are they safe? Success. I know it sounds very low standard, but some of our kids, I've lost some of my kids that I work with. So that's the ones that are alive and safe. Cool, we're doing all right.
I love that, man. That's beautiful. That's super powerful.
So, and only in the very recent years we've lost kids that were literally in the classroom with us just hours before. So that's the reality of some of these young people.
So Morgan, how much of this experience has helped to shape your values? And what your values are? Can you tell about your values as well, please?
Yeah, so my number one value, and it's funny because I don't know where I learned it, and I don't know if it's from the job or from jiu-jitsu and impacted from yourself as well, is integrity. Say what you're gonna do what you say, and do it when no one's looking. Don't be that guy that's saying one thing and doing another. Integrity overall. Do what makes you happy too. Don't do what the crowd wants you to do.
Yes.
Do what makes you happy. So that's my number one value. Be consistent. And what I mean by that is, people would sometimes put that into training, be consistent, but don't be this person that's a roller coaster to be around. Try and be consistent. My boys will be at home going, "Hey," but they know what to expect at different times, so that's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was the other part of that question? Sorry. So what are my values and
how the work you do help to shape your values?
So I think probably the best thing I've got out of this job is that, like I've mentioned, all those people I work with, and man, let's put it this way: probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I went and applied for another job. Right, I felt sick to my stomach. I felt like I was trading my family, I literally went.
It's another level. It's another level.
I went to this. I felt sick going to the interview, and I went into the interview and I performed poorly because I didn't feel like having it. Like the lady goes, "So what what would be your strengths coming to this job?" And I was like, man, I just made sure I bombed the whole thing. I was like, then I went around that night, so I had jiu-jitsu. I interviewed and I had jiu-jitsu, and then after jiu-jitsu, I rang my boss and her husband, which is very good friends. He's a good mentor of mine too. Actually, he's actually the one that helped me with my PPR on Monday. So I rang them. Can I come around and see you guys? It was like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. They're like, yeah, why? What's up? Got around to the house and I knock on the door and I said, oh man, I need to tell you guys something. They're like, what's up? I says, went to another job interview today, and they were like, what? I said, oh no, I'm sorry. But being able to have a job where you feel like going to work every day, that's great. But what was it given to me is the ability to reflect, even teach me how to reflect. So you do something, you make a lot of calls throughout the day with young people, and it affects their lives. And you know, it's only the right thing to sit down with your colleagues and say to each other, did we make the right call? You know, you can't go through the day just pulling triggers and then having no remorse or reflection about, you know, some of these calls that are going to impact these kids. So you've been able to sit down and reflect, and that become a skill. And the team, something that's real cool is we all play to each other's strengths, 100%. So, yeah, I don't think I've ever, no, I have never had a job where we've had distributed leadership like we have in our workplace where, you know, I mean, we're both black belts, but if Cullen and yourself were going to run a jiu-jitsu program, out of the two, who's going to run it? You know, you go to the person that's got the skill set. And so,
Carla, can you answer that, Carla? Okay, it's Carla. Okay.
And if you wanted someone to do the recording for the jiu-jitsu, who are you going to go to?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Carla,
so we play to our strengths. So, and it's the same in our workplace, and it's good because it made us stop and evaluate what are we good at individually, so that we know it. You know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I've got so much value out of this job. I've done a lot of training, a lot of professional development for a lot of different things, brain development and stuff like that, understanding brains, which I also get to have those conversations at home with my wife, who's right up there and understanding that stuff because she's an early childcare educator. So, yep. Oh, man, I've learnt a lot from different aspects of life. So, my job, obviously, I get to tap into all my different resources through my colleagues, but then I've got my wife at home who's been the biggest influence on my life, and it's not just trying to get brownie points. It's, man, my kids are lucky that I got to father with their mother, you know, and she taught me how to be a dad, and man, stuff like just took me so long. Like I said, the empathy thing, even for my kids, she had to show me why they even cry as a baby. You know, I just didn't understand stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of learning. The experience
that she has as a teacher, that's massive. That's awesome. So Morgan, let's talk a little bit about. Go. Okay, so Morgan, let's talk about jiu-jitsu. So how did you start your journey in jiu-jitsu, and after how we start our journey, you know, together?
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, growing up, I did heaps of different martial arts. I was forced to. My dad loved fighting, you know, and and the bad thing about it was I then wanted to be a fighter. And then went on this little quest. I think heaps of people got similar stories. I went on a little quest of trying to find the best martial art and whatnot. And I actually come up with one of my mates. He started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu down here in Wellington. And then we had done a lot of sparring before because he was a little bit into, you know, letting some steam off as well. So it was just backyard spars and stuff like this. And then he comes up one weekend. He's I've been doing this BJJ stuff. I said, give us a lesson, show us how it works. So my first interaction with jiu-jitsu was on the mattress, on the concrete underneath my clothesline in the backyard, and my mate. But it was weird. He goes to me, right, so lay down, and then he got on side control, and he goes, so I can be here, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. And then he goes, and then I can knee ride you, and then I was like, I can punch you in the nuts. Yeah. So, and he was like, yeah, but then I could really hurt you. And I said, but I've already punched you, you know. Yeah. So there was this kind of conversation going on. And it was about an hour and a half of him showing me these different things. I didn't realize at the time he was showing me sports jiu-jitsu on the concrete. You know, after an hour and a half, I said, look, man, some of that stuff was uncomfortable. Some of it hurt. But I still don't understand how you're going to get me on the ground. Like, I'm going to knee your face in really bad when you're trying to put me down. And because his answer when I asked, how are you going to get me down? He goes, I haven't learned that yet. And I said, well, it's all rubbish then. So I said, because I'm not going to lay down for you. And then anyway, so that went past. And then I kind of didn't pay much more attention to it. And then he moved to Ireland. You ended up actually training with the guy who gave him his blue belt, Andre. on today
yeah.
up at Ghuzney Street, Courtney Place.
Yeah, Curtain Place, yeah.
Yeah, so he went to Ireland and he trained and then he started competing. Then he got his blue belt and he was winning comps. And I was like, oh man, he might be getting real good at this stuff. I might have to skill up before he gets home because he might give me a hiding when he gets back. So and people are going to go, oh no, but actually my first, then I call it my real interaction with jiu-jitsu was I went and I did the internet search and I found the Gracie University online?
Yeah.
Where they give you a blue belt online. And I was all
I
wasn't all about it. Nah, I didn't get my blue belt, but
Okay.
I bought the system. I bought the system. And I was like, man, and so I watched the videos and in it, this is one thing I do like about it. I don't know if anyone who critiques it has actually watched it, but they talk about, and now you do this so the guy can't bite you or eye gouge you or do this, and I'm just like, oh, this is talking my language. Like, this is the stuff that you got to watch out for. So I went through and I watched the lessons by myself, and then at the same time that was happening, there was this guy that kept coming into our workplace, the Whānau Centre. It's early days, and I hadn't been here very long, and I knew of this guy. I didn't know him very well, but he was coming in. And then that same person ended up with his face in the paper with a blue belt for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I was like, man, does he do Jiu-Jitsu? So that fella was Kevin Takaway. And so he come in next time. I said, do you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? He goes, yep, you can. Like, this is Kev's very, very short. You can. And I was like, yep, I've got no mats. He goes, got mats. I've got mats. Yeah. And I said, oh. And he goes, what time? And I said, 3 o'clock. And I think I was just getting ready to go on like a holiday. And I was like, 3 o'clock? Just 3 o'clock? Your house? Yep. What's your address? And I said, man, this fella's out the gate. I don't know if he's actually going to turn up. He sounds, whatever. Man, 3 o'clock, boom, up my driveway with mats in his car. So I was just like, all right. I'll clear
Shout out to Kevin.
Yeah, shot Kev. Yeah, I mean, cleared out the lounge, and that was us. Matt's down in the lounge and the laptop out, and he must have been thinking, what the heck, this fella, I got a blue belt, man. So we're watching online jiu-jitsu, and I've got this guy that's been training jiu-jitsu for a while now, and he's got blue belt. But then it was his reaction. I didn't understand it at the time, but he watched it, and he goes, as he watched, kind of like got into about 5 minutes, and they started talking about eye gouging and fish hooking and whatnot, and he was like, they're keeping it real. This is legit jiu-jitsu. And so that was us. And then he goes to me, we finished that lesson, and he goes, what time? When's the next one? I went, 10 o'clock tomorrow? And he goes, yep. And then so for the next 2 or 3 weeks, it was 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock every day. And we were just going through this Gracie jiu-jitsu stuff. And I was like, man, this is cool. I didn't realize again. So that was the kind of like introduction into jiu-jitsu. And it's funny because it was only like years and years later that I understood why I didn't like it at first, and then why I liked it second.
And why? And why do you think people are so skeptical on the beginning as well?
Sports jiu-jitsu is not relative to fighting. That's me in a nutshell. When people come in and you're teaching De La Riva or Spider Guard, and people don't like hearing that from a sports jiu-jitsu world. But if you're a fighter and you come in and you're used to getting punched in the face, or you want to punch someone else in the face, and you see this stuff, and they're going to need you to be wearing a gi for them to be able to control you, you start putting two and two together and go, I'm not going to be wearing a jacket, I'm going to, and I'm allowed to punch and I'm allowed to stomp and all this kind of stuff. So that's why the second time around with the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu stuff, I was like, man, this stuff is powerful. And it didn't take me very long at all, because they've got a system where you could start predicting the fight. And that there was, most people in their life are looking for control. And when you can control the situation and you can predict the outcomes, then you start getting addicted, eh?
Yeah.
So, and so that was my introduction. And then we got bigger and bigger and more people, and then it went to no gi, and then it started becoming competitive and whatnot. And and so that was that part of the journey. And How did we meet?
How was that?
How do we meet? So I'm always going to shout out to this guy. He is the reason why we got to ever come face to face was old Chris Garland.
Yeah, Chris.
So Chris, when we were in Highbury training, Chris used to come up, and he was in the army, so he used to come up every now and then and train with us whenever he was in town. And man, what an impact that had on the outcome of things for years to come. It was real funny because we were training with Chris, and then I think if you can remember, there was a competition up at Massey, and man, it was a little bit of a cringe moment. Because it was the first time I saw a black belt. I didn't realize you were a black belt at the time, but there was this quiet guy, and then Chris turns up, and he's got this Vanderson Pires top on, and he's with these other guys. We're like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" Like we thought he was ours, you know. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, this is, you know, trading the team. He goes, "Oh, these are the guys I train with when I'm in Wellington." I was like, all right. And then he pointed out, "There's a black belt," and we were like, "Whoa, that's a real black belt," you know.
Was only Phil the counter back then, huh?
Man, you know, because when Kev was in paper for his blue belt, I think he was one of 4 blue belts in Palmerston North. That was it.
Wow.
There was no other colour belts.
Mm-hmm.
Not long after that, another guy in Palmy got his purple belt. But yeah, there was no other. That was it. That's how much the sport's grown. I think we'll be well up in the 100 blue belts in Palmerston North now. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, we saw you then, and then there was a fallout with however it happened, politics, whatnot.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to go train at the club we were associated with at the time, and I messaged Chris and I said, "Man, like, bro, you guys ever get to train with your black belt?" And he goes, "Yeah, man, like, come along, come down and train." I said, "How much do I have to pay him to roll with him?" And he's like, "Nah, you don't pay him. He just rolls with everyone." I was like, "Well, how much does the class cost him?" I was expecting like, you know, big. And he goes, "No, you're my friend. Just come along and train." I was like, "Are you honest?" And he goes, "Yeah, come down. Just let me know what night you're going to be down and we'll train." I was like, "Man, you better be telling me the truth because I'm coming." Yeah, so I bought a bus ticket. It was $1 down and $1 back on the naked bus.
Oh, really?
And,
I didn't know about that. That's that part of the story. Oh,
yeah,
man,
so
awesome.
I got a bus down and I stayed with my mate Jake, who first ever introduced me to jiu-jitsu, underneath the clothesline on the concrete. And then we came down, and the first interaction with Combat Room, well, at the time was Vanderson Pires Jiu-Jitsu, was at Courtney Place, and Norm was running the class. And man, I go in there, and then he starts doing these warm-up drills, and I was just like, what the heck? I had a blue belt at the time. And what the heck, I don't know how to move like that at all. And then it was a white belts were coming over, like, "Oh, just do this." And I was like, oh my gosh. Straight away off the bat, I'm like, man, you know, I haven't seen these drills before. And then it was just forward shrimps, you know. Yeah, I didn't know how to do that at all. So we done that, and then had some, I think we learnt spider guard that night. And then the Sunday was open mat. They said, "Come back on Sunday, it'll be open mat." I was like, cool. So I went in, and then.
So the first night I wasn't there. It was Norm.
Yeah, no, it's just blue belt. Friday night blue belt.
Okay, Friday night blue belt. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Sunday open mat, and I don't know who else I rolled with. I know Glenn was there that day, and I know Aaron was there. And I remember you walking in, and you're in your jeans and t-shirt. And that's how I tell everyone else's story. I said, yeah, and I was rolling with these guys, and I said I was rolling with Aaron and a knee rider's body, and I said, because in Highbury BJJ, man, we roll rough. we were doing MMA, you know, like it wasn't jiu-jitsu, it was rough. To the point where I say to people, if you did 3 days of training in a row at Highbury BJJ, man, you're doing all right, because every single session was kill session, you know, like man, there was nothing illegal about picking your mate up and dumping him off the mat if he had you in the arm bar. Like it was man, it was all good. So rolling with Aaron, and then he goes to turn, do the right thing, shrimp, face towards me, and I switch my knee right to his head, and I like this, and then I feel the eyes on my back, and I feel the room go quiet, and I'm like, oh. I switch my knee right back to the body, but this time Vanderson had already made his mind up. I put my gi on, and I remember thinking, oh, okay. So I'm rolling with other people, and then I said to people, whenever I tell the story to others, usually when people are getting ready to roll, someone, they sit there and they watch their movements and see. I said, Vanderson wasn't even looking at me. He was just warming up, doing this thing. I said, I'll roll with someone. Then Glenn goes, we'll have a roll. And then Vanderson does that. No, you find someone else, you roll with me. and I always tell people this part. And I thought, look, I looked at Vanderson and he looked about my size. I said, all right, I'm going to show you hybrid styles. And then I got a tune up, and it was all beautiful jiu-jitsu. It was nothing rough. This is the biggest impact on me, is that it was nothing rough, really good jiu-jitsu, and absolute control. And I was just like, man, I still, to the point I can still remember the first submission, triangle from Mount, and I remember just thinking, because I felt like for the first 2 minutes of the roll, you just wouldn't take anything if I had any resistance. If I was fighting the armbar, you wouldn't take it, you would switch, And I remember you going Mount triangle, and in my head I thought, just squeeze so I can tap. And then from then on out, it was just, boom, boom, boom. And then, because Jake was there as well, and I always kind of rated his movement from the bottom. And I thought, Jake's going to have a roll with Vanderson. I'll watch. And then he couldn't move. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And then on the bus on the way back home, I was just trying to write down everything. What happened? And I was stuck on it after that. And so when it came time to choose a new coach or instructor, I only had one person. I was like, I need to get underneath those guys. And then we talked, I really liked that. It was a part that I liked about us forming the relationship in the club, was that it wasn't an easy in.
No.
It was a long road. It was a test after test, and it was the first one was drive and we'll meet on this day.
Yeah.
I was like, yep. So me and Justin, we drive down. We got our geese thinking, we're going to have a roll, we're going to have a train. And we walk in, and we've got Alex, who's just won the trials, I think. He might have just won the Abu Dhabi trials at the time.
Yeah.
I think he was absolute champ for no gi at the time.
As brown belt, still brown belt.
Yeah. And I walk in and I was like, whoa, that's Alex Scott, a little bit. I didn't know it was just Alex, but nah. But I was a little bit starstruck at that point. And then there was a couple of others, Sam, Glenn, and I still remember the room, man. I still remember Louise was there doing the cupping. And it was a real quick talk. It was like 20-25 minutes. Why do you want to be part of the club? Why don't you want to stay with these guys? What problems are you going to cause us? Are you going to have drama? And I was like, man, okay, yeah. No, I can't guarantee there's going to be no drama right now, so we can't do this.
Yeah, but I appreciated that as well. No, that's super important, yeah.
Yeah, so we walked that back out of the room, back on the road, back to Palmy. So, and then it was a couple months later. Man, I think I can keep that deal now. I think we can do everything that was, come to this comp. It was the next thing. You guys get a team, go to this comp. So we went to this comp. It was a team of 2 at the time. It was just me and Justin. That was the club at that time. Justin, I said, bro, you're going in. I'm going to train you. You're jumping in. And so we done that. And then the next one was come to this seminar. So we're like, yep, cool. And I was, the price, I can't remember, it doesn't matter what the price was, but I said to these guys, it was a club of 4 now. We had 4 people, so it was Justin, Leo, Robbie Baxter, and myself. And I said, man, we're going to go to this, and I paid for all 4 of us. I said, you 2 are going to go to the no gi, me and Justin will go to the gi. Yep, and then it was that day. It was made official. Wow, we're a club now. And so,
oh man, it has been 10 years now.
Yeah,
it's funny you say that because one thing I think the people who knows me, I'm super protective of my students. You know, I'm very protective. There, no one is gonna come to the class just if I'm injured or if I'm sick or whatever. But if someone comes to the club, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, it's always gonna have to. I'm gonna roll for sure. Doesn't matter who is the person. And I remember seeing you, this strong guy, you know, blue belt came and was giving hard time to the guy. I said, man, who is this guy? No, wait a minute. We need to talk. But man, has been, you know, 10 years of, you know, this friendship and you know, in all those. It's funny because now you're saying about those tests, you know, and yeah, I'm kind of, you know, I'm this type of person. For me, yeah, it's super important, you know, to build a friendship. It's and especially affiliation with the academy as well. No, I'm not looking for, you know, for more people. No, I just want the ones who can share and can share the same values and passion about and be real as well. It's something super important.
Yeah, I've just had that, you know, over the years, and it's funny, you kind of develop a harder and harder skin, you know, and a harder nose for letting people in, especially into your jiu-jitsu environment.
Yeah.
You know, and just recently I've had people come and, I want to switch club over to here. You know, my advice has been go try everywhere else first. And I've actually been questioned on that from people in my environment. Do you think that's the right thing to do? What if they choose the other club? I says, then we weren't never the right club.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I'm so with you. Yeah.
Then if they're willing to go and join another club, cool.
Yeah.
And you were never really meant for this place. How are they supposed to know your environment if you didn't give them a chance to? I said, if they really want to be here, they won't. It's actually a trick question. The right answer is, I don't want to check out any other club. That's the right answer.
Yeah.
The second right answer is to go and check out all the other clubs and then make your decision. The wrong answer is just for us to accept them.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what you're getting yourself into. And it's funny thing in jiu-jitsu where people are quick to jump out of one association straight into another. And that's actually a conversation I've just recently had with Kim, and say, man, it's just a good thing to take your time, and it's important for both parties. You know, you jump into a relationship otherwise. And you put it's quite emotional. I don't know, you know, and
because of the effort, the trust, you know, the time and how much emotion, the emotional labor we have, and to trying to build that up each other, and and it's a trust thing. Cannot build it like that, you know? Need some time.
Yeah, and I'm also kind of, I don't know if this is the right thing, and maybe it will change over time and over my lifetime in the years to come. But I'm not one to say that I own anybody either. You know, if any of my I don't even like calling them students, members, feel that they've outgrown the environment, so be it. It's life, you know, it's growth, and sometimes people feel like the environment they're in is no longer benefiting them.
Yes, I agree.
And that they can benefit from doing something else. You know, to keep it 100% real, there might be a day where my kids say to me, "Remember when you used to do jiu-jitsu, Dad?" You know, that's life.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I appreciate that. That's really cool. You said that, Morgan. That's awesome. So Morgan, it's hard to become a black belt. How was this journey?
Hard for, I don't know. It's not an arrogant reply. I don't find it hard, only because I never wanted to do anything else more than just turning up to jiu-jitsu once I got started. You know, so it wasn't a hard path for me. It was hard being given the black belt, and the expectations of that. That was hard. The journey to it wasn't. It was normal. It become routine. You know, just turn up. It would be hard to what other people do by skipping class, and that's hard. And come every now and then, that's hard. I don't get that.
I love that. Yeah.
But when you just turn up every night, then it just becomes routine. It's like having breakfast. That's not hard, you know. But I don't know. My wife she'll be the one saying, man, people don't understand how much I put into
how much effort,
jiu-jitsu. You know, even when I used to only train 2 nights a week, Tuesday, Thursday nights, I used to think about it 7, you know. She was the one that watched me fall asleep most nights with jiu-jitsu playing. The one that would watch me like this, the one who had to watch me come here to my sons, come here, I want to try this move. And then, you know, and really, like I said, when I got the black belt, when I didn't realize, you know, that was the whole thing that day that I got the black belt, which was thank you so much. That was an amazing day because my family was there. But like I stopped and said, I need to do a shout out to those, to my wife and my kids who have seen the good, the bad, and the straight up ugly, because they had to put up with my broken shoulder and the broken ribs and you know, stuff like that. And I acted like a tough guy in front of all my jiu-jitsu friends and at the club, and but the other ones that had to put up with the moaning and groaning and can't do this around the house, you know. Yeah, I can go to jiu-jitsu and play the tough man. But
oh my God, I appreciate that. Even your wife, she built a shed for you on the back of your house to train jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, so people will think that was my idea. That was 100% hers. Yeah, so I don't know.
I remember you mentioned that to me, and I think, wow, man, that's super cool. That's very special.
So she was sick of look, what I've noticed and what she's come out and said over time is she does everything to make me happy and to clear the way and to make my ability to succeed in different ventures I set out to do as easy as possible. You know, and so she saw that I was moving from place to place and it wasn't consistent, and that messes with me, which messes with the whole vibe of the family. So in reflection, yeah, it was her idea, but she done it for the benefit of the family. You know, if I can get this shed built, then there will always be a home base for the club. You know, and even now, you know, so we still know now that if things were to fall apart, we've still got 60 square meters to train at. Yeah, so
that's super cool, super special. But now we have good news, right?
Great news.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, so the journey alongside each other with the Highbury Whānau Centre and my journey with jiu-jitsu continues to ride side by side, and so the Combat Room Palmerston North club is relocated back to where you know, one of the original places of training is, which is in the Highbury Whānau Centre, and with a permanent setup, 170 square meters of mats down.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, and with a very good group of people training, you know, with some real honest depth now amongst the ranks, and very, very easy to future plan, you know, success plan. And I'm always thinking about what if I can't train? What if the most out of it thing happens and I can't walk, or, you know, who is there good enough people in place to take over? And the answer right now is easy, you know. So
that's amazing.
And then the planning, being able to see that in 5 years' time, those people who are white belts at the moment will definitely be purples going on browns, you know, and in 5 years' time we're going to have so many more black belts in the club, and so it's pretty cool to be thinking like that. But yeah, I've been given the opportunity from the guy I mentioned before, my boss's husband, Pete, who was also a good friend and a mentor in many ways. He came and approached me January last year asking if I wanted to if I would move the club back to Highbury. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was time to go back, and it was it feels like the right thing. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Pretty happy. Still yet to do have the official opening though.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the invitation. We need to make it to happen. Of course, no, because that was just a little bit before.
We were going to do it during the lockdown took over that period.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so tell a little bit about the timetable of the Highbury now.
When we train?
Yeah.
So we train Monday through to Thursday, 4 nights a week, 6:30 to 8. Yep, and then I actually encourage my guys to get out and train at other places in the weekend, if they can go around and hit open mat somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or they're more than welcome to have the keys and go into the gym and train. But some of my guys, you know, like you know what it gets like if you train in the same environment all the time, train with the same people, you know each other's games, so
Yeah.
kind of hard to evolve like that. So, yeah, I have been, and I've taken opportunity in the last couple of weeks to go and train at other clubs, which is real cool. Yeah, I'm not too sure. It's a weird thing when people don't want their students to train at other clubs, man. That I will say this now. This is something I will bring up, and I just reminded myself is, you're doing a disservice to the community if you are a club that is trying to be a closed club. I understand what you're trying to do. That you think there's secrets. There's no secrets in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because if you don't know this in New Zealand, the sport's far too small.
Yeah.
You know. So I've ran a comp a month and a half ago and got to announce this at the comp that I'll be doing and there will be a comp at, what are we in, August yet? Or July still? July. So August, at the end of August, we'll be doing a comp. And we'll be doing a comp every 4 weeks. It's just the local white blue belt comp. If other people from out of town want to travel, cool.
Yeah.
Yep, and it's just because we're competing against, man, people need to get this through their head in the jiu-jitsu community. We're competing against rugby. We're competing against basketball, soccer, netball.
Yeah.
Those are the big four, not jiu-jitsu, not other jiu-jitsu clubs.
Yeah.
And cool to yourself, who's had the Wellington Open comp, and obviously NZ Grappler, and then all the smaller comps. I mean, a bit of a shame that shout out to the River City crew over in Wanganui, Dan and that, who are running the sub only 80cc style rules.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then you got the Mana Championship and people like that doing it. That's awesome. Core MMA holding some good comps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm just trying to, because we've got the space now in the club to not have to do the big setup. You know, we've got the venue, we've got the facilities there.
Yeah.
Why not, eh? To do a little comp that's over and out in 2 hours. So, what I'm trying to aim for is that people get to play their sport at least once a month. You know, we got rugby that trains on a Tuesday, gets to play on a Saturday, and then we train, and never get to play. So,
Yeah. I love what you said, because I think what all of us need to realize, the only competition we have is with education about our sport. We need to educate people. As you said, we need to compete with all those sports, and they are so well established. And jiu-jitsu is just that little thing between all of that. Huh?
yeah. So we have like the NZ Grappler. Don't go quoting my number. I think it's around 400 competitors, and it sounds outstanding. It sounds outstanding. 400 competitors,
It's
but
amazing,
man, we get 2,000 kids on a Friday night playing touch.
Yeah.
You know, every single Friday during summer, 2,000 kids a week.
Wow.
And then you got Sunday, the very next morning, Saturday morning, you got how many hundreds of kids playing football. And then on a Wednesday night, you've got hundreds, if not thousands of kids playing basketball. So, man, 400 at a national, it's great for our sport, which is growing, but it's, you can see who we're competing against, other sports. So, yeah. So my idea is to try and to up the frequency of competitions just locally. I'm not trying to compete with the other big names, because NZ Grappler, in my opinion, and yourself have done well to really set the standard of what a good competition looks like. But you just up the frequency of competition and give people something to train towards.
That's awesome. Oh, my brother, yeah, well done for everything you've been doing, as youth worker and with jiu-jitsu as well in Palmerston North. Yeah, I'm really proud of having you on our team. And if you want to go to check it out, just visit our website, www.combatroom.co.nz. You're going to see all Morgan's details there. Contact him and go to training. So, my friend, thank you so much. And tomorrow we're going to train, right? Yes. So, my brother, thank you. Thank you so much, Morgan.
Thank you.
That's awesome.